Hey guys, and welcome to my first video. After spending the last few weeks binging Pokemon challenge runs on YouTube, I figured I'd give my own a shot and why not document the process and create my own video. If it wasn't glaringly obvious from the title and thumbnail, I'll be attempting to beat Pokemon Ruby with only a Slakoth, one of my favourite Pokemon and possibly my spirit animal. Slakoth is disgustingly terrible, and although its base stats aren't the worst in the game, its ability surely is. Truant only allows you to attack every second turn. By level up, Slakoth doesn't learn that many great moves. Its strongest is Feint Attack with a base power of 60, and it does not get the same type attack bonus, nor the advantage of it being a physical move. Due to how Generation 3 works, certain types will deal physical damage, and certain types will deal special damage. Dark type moves like Feint Attack only deal special damage. So, if we are to successfully beat this game with Slakoth, I'll surely be relying largely on TMs, which Slakoth has access to some decent ones, namely the elemental moves such as Fire Blast and Blizzard, and Return, which is a normal type move that I believe reaches 102 power with maximum happiness. I will be attempting this challenge with no use of items in battle, although I will still use held items and items outside of battle. I won't use other Pokemon in battle, but I will use Pokemon outside of battle for HMs and any other reason I see fit. Let's get into it. The first rival battle was incredibly easy. We dealt more damage than Torchic, and even though a crit won us the battle with ease, I suspect we probably would have won with little difficulty. Slakoth's stats are just better than first form starters at this stage of the game. Although I don't think anyone expects the first rival battle to ever be a challenge, it is literally a tutorial after all. I suspect Roxanne will be the first biggest obstacle. Although keeping in mind Slakoth can learn Feint Attack at level 19, it deals special damage, and being a dark type move, her rock Pokemon will not resist it. However, I think that will make her easily doable, and I just want to see at what is the lowest level that I can beat the trainers in this game with the least advantage to us. Obviously I could grind to level 100 and likely beat the game with little difficulty, and if I have to, I certainly will. In fact, I suspect that Elite Four will change my perspective on this. But for now, I want to at least attempt as minimal grinding as possible. So let's see how we go with that. And then youngster Calvin stops me right in my tracks. I was wondering how to utilise Yawn as a move. Typically putting a Pokemon to sleep with a 100% accurate move would be at a great advantage to us. However, as you can see here, when I tested it out on the youngster, Yawn only takes effect at the end of the turn after it's used. And with Slakoth's ability of skipping every second turn in conjunction with its terrible speed, this proved an awful decision. Zigzagoon woke up immediately and destroyed me. I seriously didn't think I was going to lose to the second NPC in this game. Time to get good. Now, I would have won the battle if instead of Yawn I just attacked straight away, and that's probably a fair statement across any early game run in Pokemon. There isn't much time for strategy when everyone's stats are this low, and when I can only attack every second move, every one of my turns counts. I should also mention my Slakoth's nature is not, well, great. It has a quiet nature which lowers its speed and raises special attack. Slakoth is already slow and a physical attacker. Yikes. After my first embarrassing blunder, I make my way through the early routes in Petalburg Forest, which didn't give me too much trouble. However, I did have to face the Magma Grunt a few times. He was a higher level and I was relying a bit too much on him not using Sand Attack. I re-attempted using Yawn, and this time it actually helped. Poochyena stayed asleep multiple turns, which lessened the chance of him using Sand Attack or Howl. Maybe I was too quick to judge Yawn, but I just don't see it being useful long term. I think it's clear that we are going to have to level up before Roxanne, but let's try it at our current level anyway, and see how it goes. And yep, Geodude destroyed me. It's clear that I'm outmatched, so I went back and fought all the trainers I skipped in previous routes. Then I started grinding out Poochyena for some EV training. Now if you don't know, EVs are effort values. Certain Pokemon that you faint will reward you with effort values. For instance, one Poochyena will give you one attack EV, and then you need 4 of those EVs to gain 1 point in attack at the next level up, so on and so forth. However, Poochyena only has a 15% appearance rate in the early routes of Pokemon Ruby, and I wasn't encountering them nearly frequent enough to make this a worthwhile endeavour. But we might come back to this later on. So to the cave it was, and Wizmir we killed. Slakoth has a slow level rate, and Wizmir gives the most experience of any wild Pokemon in the area. At level 17, I attempted Roxanne again. Despite knowing Slakoth gains Feint Attack at level 19, I just wanted to see how possible it would be to defeat Roxanne with some combination of Slakoth, Scratch, Encore and Yawn. So how possible is it? Well, it's just not. I loafed around for a bit attempting some combination of Yawn and Encore to try and grind out the Geodude, but my efforts were proving futile. Even if I was to get Geodude's health low enough, there is still the Nose Pass and I was low on PP, and Roxanne still has 2 potions. I conceded and leveled Slakoth up to learn Feint Attack. I dispatched Geodude with little difficulty, however Nose Pass was slightly more grindy. I had to use Slakoth multiple times to heal, and with the help of an Oranberry, after a minute or two, Nose Pass was no more. Next up we have Broly, who realistically is a bigger threat than Roxanne, as Slakoth's weakness is Fighting type. I decided to choose to make Roxanne harder than it needed to be, due to attempting a useless strategy to begin with, rather than approaching her with Feint Attack from the get-go. Broly, however, at my current level is too much to deal with. He outspeeds me, and due to Truant, I can't get enough attacks in to consistently win. Without access to any other heavy hitting moves, it's clear I'm going to have to level up. I travelled to Slateport and clear out the beach trainers and magma grunts before heading on to Rival 2. I work my way up to the second rival battle, and I figure why not give this a shot before re-attempting Broly. Wailmer I can beat consistently. Sometimes I win with low health, but on my last attempt I got particularly lucky with the splash spam. Not sure why the AI is so terrible in this regard. Wailmer often led with splash and outspeeds me, so it's a good chance to encore and then scratch it to death. However, Combuskin is a brick wall. Its double kick annihilates me. I was dreading this battle in particular, and now I have 2 obstacles, both using fighting type Pokemon. I hate that it's come to this, but I'm going to have to grind up to level 30. To help with this endeavour, I went out and caught 5 Zigzagoon. Now you might be wondering why would I do this? Obviously I can't use them in battle, but they do have a very useful passive ability that works outside of battle, Pick Up. Every time you defeat a Pokemon, they have a chance to pick up an item, nuggets and rare candies included. I fought wild Pokemon until level 26. During this time, my Zigzagoons found 2 rare candies, and I got a 3rd one from the Creepy Dude's House challenge. I mean, is no one in this town sus on the dude that has children locked up in a maze in the back of his house? Anyway, moving on. Now that I'm leveled up, I tried defeating May once more, but her Combuskin was still an absolute prick to fight. Then it dawned on me, if I use the TM bulk up, I would be able to set up on May's Pokemon relatively easily due to Wailmer using Splash all the time. So back to Juford we go. I use the rare candies, reaching level 29. Now in hindsight I should have saved these until later levels in the game because the higher level you are, the more experience it takes to level up, but I was being impatient. Anyway, after using the rare candies I reached level 29 and somewhat easily take down Broly. I did get lucky with some of the moves, but it seemed with my Silk Scarf and high enough level I could take him down. I get lucky and March-Up goes for Seismic Toss twice. This is the best I could hope for, as Seismic Toss deals a set amount of damage each time, equal to the user's level. 2 scratches took March-Up down. Makuhita is more of a mixed bag. Knowing Sand Attack really makes battles a grind with Slakoth. An Arm Thrust could hit me 5 times in a row, or maybe 2 if I'm lucky. Makuhita goes for Arm Thrust and it hits twice. And then I take about 3/4 of his HP out with a scratch. Makuhita then goes for Bulk Up and things are starting to get scary. He then Sand Attacks and I'm really holding my breath at this point. I outspeed Makuhita, but if I miss this attack and he goes for Arm Thrust or Knock Off, it's over for me. And I miss, of course. Okay, round 2. March-Up goes for Bulk Up this time. And of course, this is actually better than Seismic Toss because he's dealing no damage at all. And I'm strong enough that the defense raise doesn't really matter. To my surprise, Karate Chop didn't even do half of my health. I'm quite over level compared to March-Up, but still, easy win on the chop. Makuhita uses Sand Attack again, and I only need 1 more hit to win, but I'm feeling nervous. Arm Thrust hits twice, I loaf around, and 1 more Arm Thrust, and I hang on but barely. And now it's down to if I miss again or not, and luckily I hit. Broly is taken care of. So now may be a good time to mention, but it's been a long time since I played Gen 3, probably since I was 12 years old with Emerald. And while I wouldn't say I'm a Pokemon noob, I definitely don't have the most intricate knowledge of these games or the meta surrounding them. so I'm somewhat winging this challenge and haven't done as much research as I should have beforehand. In fact, despite what I said before, it only dawned on me after beating Brawley that I could use bulk up on May. So for the May battle, this retry goes really well. Wailmer goes between Splash and Water Gun as I set up with bulk up. I decide to bulk up I think about 6 times, just to be safe and guarantee the win. I don't have a point of reference for how much damage I do to Combuskin without the buff, and I needed to guarantee at least surviving 1 double kick if that's the first move that May decides to go for. I even healed up a couple times using Slakoth before committing to the kill. Now, to my surprise, Wailmer did not use rollout once during all my attempts against May. I remember as a kid rollout being the bane of my existence in this battle, but for some reason the AI thought Splash was just really going to win them this one. Whatever, works for me. As soon as I go for Scratch, of course it's a one-shot, and it's a one-shot for Combuskin and Shroomish too. Luckily, or unluckily enough, Combuskin goes for Focus Energy instead of Double Kick as its first move. Now this made me nervous that it would Double Kick, get a crit, which will ignore the buffs and take me out. But because I've gone for so many bulk ups and my defense is that high, the AI decides it needs to go for an Ember, which is a special move and targets my special defense. So it all works out and I take out the Combuskin and the Shroomish, no problem. Next up is Morville City. And of course it wouldn't be a Pokemon playthrough if I didn't have a cheeky punt at the slots first. I decide to face Watson straight away, but it's clear that I need to level up. Feint Attack does nothing, so I figure bulk up is the best strategy again. I defeat the trainers around the route and then beat the Winston family as they give me the Macho Brace, and I think this will aid me in EV training Slakoth's attack stat as I was speaking about earlier. So I attempt Watson again multiple times at level 33, trying to set up with bulk up and healing a Slakoth. Between the paralysis and the confusion from Supersonic, this battle is way more luck based than I'd like. I'm trying to achieve bulk up 4 times so I can take down Watson's Pokemon in a couple hits. The Magnemite would likely go down in 1 or 2, Voltorb definitely with 1, but Magneton I'm slightly more skeptical of. Really though, I can't even get to 4 bulk ups and then attack without dying. It's just not feasible without attempting the battle multiple times and hoping for the perfect luck. So I'm going to have to grind. I'm going to EV train as well. The Macho Brace doubles or gives an additional EV stat per Pokemon taken down, and the most easily accessible one is still Poochyena. This is still going to take forever though, and I won't get as much experience from that either. That's why I'll be relying on Zigzagoon's pickup ability for rare candies. My idea is with the additional attack EVs and a few more extra levels, I will need to set up less bulk ups and survive enough hits to steamroll Watson's team, and really set myself up for the rest of the game by maximising my stats. Even though I'd have a jumble of effort values already assigned from all the random Pokemon I've killed, I just wanted to max out the rest of my attack. And at level 38 with max EVs and a high amount of those being in attack, it's still frankly not enough. And I spent hours resetting this battle hoping for the best luck. And I only made it to Magneton once and I still could not one-shot it. And this is when I realised that I'm a total fucking idiot. Something you probably all realised well before I got into this tirade about EV training and levelling up more. And this really shows I didn't do the research, but the Morville Game Corner sells TM36, which is Flamethrower. And guess who can learn Flamethrower? That's right, Slakoth. And guess which Pokemon are weak to fire? That's right, Magnemite and Magneton. So I don't have enough coins to purchase Flamethrower yet. I need about $80,000 to buy the coins to then buy the Flamethrower. So I grind 2 more levels with Zigzagoon, and I utilise their pickup ability and sell off almost everything I have, including a couple nuggets, full restores, the works. I get Flamethrower, replace Slakoth, and what do you know it? Watson is a breeze. Like, I one-hit every single one of his Pokemon. It's trivial how easy it is now. Literally, if I just looked this up earlier, I would have saved myself hours, and I'm obviously pretty over-leveled at this point. So for the next few sections of the game, there isn't as much to talk about because I steamroll through most NPCs. Maxie does give me a bit of trouble though. His Mightyena with the Intimidate ability, plus the use of Sand Attack, really puts me on the back foot in this fight, and I can't deal enough damage to his Pokemon. It's clear I need a better physical move, and Maxie is the key for me to get the TM return. I decide to level my Slakoth to 43 and teach it Flail. This gives me the ability to leverage the damage Maxie inflicts on me and use a high-powered Samer-type attack bonus move to knock out his Golbat and Camerupt. I then obtain return from Cosmos. and from here on out it's pain trained for the NPCs. Flannery is an easy defeat. I'm fairly over leveled, and as you can see, I one-shot both her Slugmas. Torkoal almost takes me out with Overheat on my Truant turn, but I outspeed and Flail gives me the victory. Now, let's go beat up my dad, otherwise known as the 5th gym leader, Norman. At level 44, Norman is no joke. Not even after bulking up once can I one-shot the level 28 Slacking. Now Slacking is an absolute beast of a Pokemon. Its stats rival that of legendaries, having a base stat of 670. Despite Slacking also suffering from Truant, it completely outpowers me. I mean, obviously it is Slakoth's final form after all. This is a battle of the sloths, except I'm at a major disadvantage. And you might think that's because Norman has 2 Slackings, one at level 31, and a Vigoroth. That's not actually the issue here. So the disadvantage is the fact that after I knock out a Pokemon, I'm also loafing around for the next turn. So the opponent's next Pokemon always gets to go first, no matter what. And what would you know? Norman always sends out his second Slacking, and the move that he goes for is always Focus Punch. Ordinarily, Focus Punch is, well, pretty ordinary. It's got a high attack power, but it requires the user not to be hit for it to actually work. So naturally, it's the perfect move to utilise against me, because I can't do anything to stop it. I feel like this is Norman's version of corporal punishment on his child, and this is what I get for attempting such a ridiculous challenge. Now, I thought I was going to have to grind hard, but for whatever reason, I only went up a couple levels before retesting the waters, and the results are a little bit bizarre. I'm not going to claim to understand the inner workings of Pokemon AI, but in my anecdotal experience, depending on your level depends on the way the AI will interact with you. Either that or I just got really lucky in this match. I equipped Slakoth with the Chesto Berry to mitigate one of the sleep statuses that will be inflicted upon me. I decide to bulk up 3 times while getting hit with a Facade, and then Norman uses Yawn against me again, which puts me asleep for the 2nd time. But instead of attacking, he goes for Yawn 2 more times, despite me already being asleep. I get lucky and wake up after he attempts the 2nd Yawn. This is one time that being slow is to my advantage, as the Yawn has no effect on me because I'm already asleep, but then by going 2nd, I get lucky and proc the wake up and take down Slacking no problems. The second lucky thing that happens is when he sends out his 2nd Slacking. I thought for sure it would go for Focus Punch, as there is nothing I can do, but no, he goes for Feint Attack and I just win. There is nothing Vigoroth can do to me with my defense this high. Even though it did get a critical hit with its 2nd Feint Attack, my natural defensive bulk, and the bulk ups, and the higher level let me take the victory. Between now and the Elite Four, there is not a whole lot to talk about outside of gym battles. I destroy every regular trainer, and even the rival battles are not really worth talking about. These games are kinda notorious for how terrible the rival fights are after the 2nd rival battle. In the final rival battle, May doesn't even have fully evolved Pokemon, which is a bit of a disappointment because Blaziken and Breloom would surely give me a run for my money with their fighting type attacks. Anyway, back to the 6th gym. Winona was relatively easy, but it did take me a few tries to figure out an optimal strategy. You see, she really likes using trick-based moves such as Double Team, Supersonic and Sand Attack. These moves are Slakoth's worst nightmare, considering I can only attack every 2nd go. But without her using these moves, the fight wouldn't be a challenge, considering I'm reasonably over-leveled just to keep up with Gym Leader's Pokemon. I mean, if she had better AI, she could stall me out with Pelipper using the Protect, and that's really why Slakoth was never intended to be used as the sole Pokemon. Any Pokemon that knows Protect could theoretically beat me by protecting every time I use a move, then attacking whenever my Truant is active. Anyway, I can get through Swellow and Pelipper relatively consistently, but Skarmory proves to be a bit of a block. It does outspeed me at my current level, and with all the sand it's throwing at me, I just can't seem to get an attack in. When I use Flamethrower, it isn't enough to kill the Skarmory, and Winona uses her Hyper Potions. I would have to rely on a critical hit, which isn't something I want to reset for, and it's just not a good strategy. Though, I should mention that in the next couple gym battles do rely heavily on luck. Anyway, I decide to battle the NPC before Fortress City to gain enough experience to level up within the Winona fight. It takes a few more tries, but then Pelipper misses its Supersonic and I manage to take it out unscathed. Skarmory goes for Steel Wing and I'm still standing strong. I go for Return as to avoid proccing Hyper Potion with Flamethrower. Skarmory uses Sand Attack. Not great for me, but 1 is fine. And then it goes for Steel Wing and leaves me at about half health, and I proceed to cremate it with Flamethrower. Now, Altaria is a bit of a gamble. I get paralysed with Dragon Breath on top of my already lowered accuracy, and this really isn't looking great. I can bypass the accuracy with Flail, but my win depends on surviving the next move, and I'm barely hanging on. So please don't get paralysed. And yes, I secure the victory. I buy the Elemental TMs from the department store, as they may prove useful in the Elite Four, and I get Shadow Ball from the Ghost Tower, or whatever it's called in this game. This move will prove crucial in the next gym fight, and in the Elite Four. Ghost attacks are physical moves in Gen 3, and this is to my advantage. Alright, so I steamroll Team Magnus base and all that jazz, and we are up to Gym 7, Liza and Tate. Now, it is important to mention that this is a compulsory double battle, and I'm doing a solo Pokemon run. This is unavoidable. To circumnavigate this problem, I simply catch a Magikarp with Splash, and at best the only advantage this gives me is the ability to sponge 1 hit from Liza and Tate. It is what it is. I replace Flail with Shadow Ball, and use my remaining rare candies to reach level 60. I initiate the battle and Solrock hits my Slakoth with a Psychic. Okay, it's not too bad. Lunatone goes for Light Screen, even better, and Magikarp is still there to absorb a hit. I take out Lunatone with a Shadow Ball, and I couldn't ask for a better battle at this rate. Solrock takes out the Magikarp while I'm loafing around. Next turn, as I don't outspeed, Solrock smacks me with another Psychic, and then I take it out with a Shadow Ball. Not so bad, eh? Well, it wasn't, and this was an example of an easy Liza and Tate attempt. Now here's the issue, I forgot to save, and I didn't record this, but when battling trainers on one of the sea routes below Moss Deep City, I get taken out. And instead of letting myself white out, I instinctively reset the game in order to save money. But I had wrongly assumed I saved after winning the Liza and Tate battle. In my frustration, I forgot to film the rematch with Liza and Tate, but it took a lot longer. In fact, I think I rematched them about a dozen times, possibly more. See, I high rolled the damage with Shadow Ball the first time I won the fight, and all the rematches I low rolled the damage. Pokemon's moves aren't guaranteed to do the same amount of damage every time, so there was no real strategy with Liza and Tate anyway, other than to spam Shadow Ball and hope you win eventually. If something like this happens again, I'll make sure to be recording the rematch. I complete all the story based content and defeat Maxie. Nothing worth talking about once again. We catch our Dust Collector of a Legendary, and now onto the final gym of the game. Probably the most challenging since Watson. Watson before Flamethrower, that is. Don't remind me how much time I wasted with that. Gym 8, Wallace, the champion of the Hoenn region in a parallel universe. Again, I was dealing with bullshit moves like Lovely Kiss, Water Pulse, and Supersonic. I feel like this is an emerging theme. The worst battles are the ones where the opponents use confusion tactics. Luvdisc poses no threat offensively, but all of his other Pokemon do damage. Luvdisc fairly consistently fucks my shit up with Lovely Kiss, and I'll tell you what I'm not feeling so loved right about now. I can't manage to one-hit Whiscash with Return, so I try to set up one Bulk Up. I know I'll probably need the stat increases for Wallace's Milotic also, which is a fairly bulky Pokemon. However, while Slakoth isn't necessarily a slouch in the HP and defense department, it sorely lacks special defense, and I just can't seem to tank enough hits to get to his Milotic consistently. And that's when Whiscash reminds me of something. With all its Amnesia spamming, I realised I can learn Amnesia. So after levelling up like once or twice, I go to Fall Arbor Town and give my only heart scale to the move tutor and replace Flamethrower with Amnesia. Now, I could have just grinded up to level 70 or something absurd, and I probably still will need to for the Elite Four. But I just wanted to see if this tactic could help me beat Wallace with minimal grinding. Now it still takes a few attempts between all the confusion and self-harming, but I do manage to get super lucky and Luvdisc misses its first 2 Lovely Kisses, which lets me get my special defense up, and then I use one Bulk Up to get my attack high enough to one-shot Whiscash and presumably Melodic. I do get hit by one Lovely Kiss and a couple of Water Pulses, but I snap out of confusion straight away. Whiscash goes for 2 Amnesias in a row, and things are looking really good right now. I take out Whiscash and Cielo no problemo, and Seaking gets a critical hit which bypasses the special defense buff. That's just how crits work. It's also worthy to note that if Whiscash had used Earthquake on me, I probably would have lost this battle. because I still have Melodic to face. I get a crit in on Seeking, which is pretty inconsequential, and my Citrus Berry restores some health. Melodic uses Ice Beam twice, and then I take it out low div. The thing is, if it had gone for a same attack type bonus move, such as Water Pulse, with the chance of confusing me, taking into consideration I'd already got an Earthquake from Wishcash, in conjunction with Seeking's critical hit, I probably would have lost. Also worthy to note, if I had got frozen, I could have lost, but I'm not about to reset the game to find out. I'll take the lucky win, but this is where my luck runs out. And shout out to JRose11 for inspiring me to even do this challenge in the first place. So in honour of him, I'm going to do the Elite 4, I'm going to try and attempt the Elite 4 without saving in between. Wish me luck. I trek through Victory Road, but not without a few hiccups. I lose to a few trainers and eventually decide to skip most of them. And since it's been such a long time since I've played these games, I genuinely had forgotten that Wally challenges you to a battle at the end of Victory Road. I lost pretty horribly the first time, but eventually won after teaching Slakoth Fire Blast. Anyway, I want to move on to the main event already, so let's talk about the Elite 4. First up we have Sydney, who uses Dark type Pokemon. Now the thing about Gen 3 is mentioned before, certain types are allocated into either special or physical damaging moves. Dark is allocated to do special damage, but a lot of the Dark type Pokemon in Gen 3 are physical attackers and can't really make use of the same type attack bonus. So to make up for this, I assume Game Freak decided to make Sydney a Trickster type opponent. Mightyena immediately cuts our attack stat with its Intimidate ability, and it knows Sand Attack to lower our accuracy, Swagger which confuses us, and Crunch which can lower our special defense. Remember that theme about confusion based tactics being the worst fights for us? Well yeah, here we go again. Initially when attempting Sydney, I was at level 70 and I used a White Herb to mitigate the Intimidate, but I was still far too weak. Mightyena outsped me, and even though I can one-shot it in Cacturn, Sharpedo was a wall. Sharpedo actually has special decent attack, so it did a fair amount of damage to me. I messed around with Amnesia Shenanigans to boost my special defense against Sharpedo, but this proved fruitless as Mightyena would Sand Attack me as I set up, and I just missed way too many attacks. And between the lowered accuracy, Swagger Confusion and Leech Seed, this was a recipe for disaster. I leveled up a reasonable amount before consistently beating Sydney. The White Herb was useless at this point, and in hindsight, it may have been useless before as well, as I one-shot all of Sydney's Pokemon. Let me go over the 3 main conditions to winning this battle. Number 1, you have to outspeed Mightyena. If not, you risk Sand Attack, which will lower your accuracy, or a special defense drop from Crunch, which will overall lower your chances of winning. 2, and this one is absolutely crucial, you cannot be Leech Seeded by Cacturn. If this happens, it is an automatic loss, and it wouldn't matter if you were level 100 at this point, I suspect, because I did this battle at multiple levels, 70, 80, 95, and no matter what, if I get Leech Seeded, I will lose. And the third condition is, you cannot hit yourself in confusion, especially while facing Sharpedo. Sharpedo does way too much damage, and you won't outlast it to Absol or Shiftry. Even when I equip a Person Berry, there is still a chance for a second Swagger on your attacking turn with Slakoth, as Sharpedo always outspeeds. So as you can imagine, between the Leech Seeds and their confusions, this battle is always down to luck, and at best, you will win 50% of the time, probably not even that. So, I came up with the strategy of use return and hope for the best. Sydney was the most frustrating aspect about this run so far, and I'm glad he's the first member of the Elite 4 and not the 3rd or the 4th or even the champion. I lost many times to Sydney, but I also won many times as I am not saving in between Elite 4 members on this challenge. Next up is Phoebe, and honestly there isn't much to say about her. She is a breeze compared to Sydney, so much so that I beat her in my first attempt. Shadow Ball makes very quick work against her Pokemon, and her attacks do little damage, despite her being forced to use special attacking moves against me. Although I faced her again multiple times, because, spoilers, the next member of the Elite 4 was not so easy, the main concern is getting burned by a Will-O-Wisp, which is a guaranteed loss. Her final Dusclops can also confuse you, which can lead to a loss, but it's not guaranteed like the burn. which FYI cuts your attack in half, so to counteract this I equipped a Rawsberry. I did switch up between that and a Personberry just to kind of see how the fight goes, but as I said, if you get burnt you're gonna lose, and if you get confused, even without the Personberry, there's a chance you will just attack. On my original attempts against her when I was a lower level, I did have to bulk up for the Sableye to one-shot it. Now that I am a higher level, this is unnecessary. Moving on to Glacier, and what can I say? She proved to be the next biggest obstacle in the Elite Four. It's all the odd number battles in this game, man. I just cannot outlast her. I know that I will definitely need Amnesia to win this battle, but even with it, I can barely make it to her second Glalie. And with a few more levels and a Citrus Berry, I do make it to Walrun, but it's just not possible to win. Between the hail, the freezes, the critical hits, this battle is ridiculous. I need to heal, but with a Citrus Berry only restoring 20 HP and no access to leftovers until post-game, I feel as if I'm done for. Unless I bring back our old friend Slakoth, the move that is, which restores half of our maximum HP. Now for this I would have to sacrifice bulk up, and I was apprehensive about this decision because I wasn't sure if I would need bulk up when facing Steven. That's if I can even get up to that point. But I decided it's a risk worth taking. So I fish for a love disc, get that heart scale, go to the move tutor, and teach Slakoth how to slack off. Now we're talking. With Slakoth learned, leveled up to 95, and an Aspia Berry equipped, we are finally ready. Glalie always leads with Hail, which gives me a free Amnesia, and then on the second turn Ice Beams me, and on the third while I'm loafing, she goes for Light Screen, which is quite lucky. I then have the chance to heal, and at this point, Ice Beams are doing nothing to me, short of a critical hit. After my next loaf around, I take Glalie out with Return. The second Sealo can use Body Slam, which can be an issue if you get paralysed. So I try and take this Sealo out as soon as possible, and then heal again when facing Glacier's second Sealo. I get a free heal as it goes for Hail, and then on my next attacking turn, I take it out with Return. Glacier sends out her second Glalie, and I have to tank 2 Ice Beams and pray I don't get a critical hit before I can attack. And lucky enough, we make it through mostly without a scratch. Walrun hits me with a Blizzard, and we tank it easy. Next turn, we outspeed and take him down with a Return. It's clear at this point that the extra levels, in combination with Slakoth, make this battle consistently doable. And now for the heavy hitters. First up, Drake. Moving on from our win with Glacier, let's jump straight into the first battle I have against him. I teach Slakoth Ice Beam and challenge the Dragon Trainer to battle. Knowing that Dragon type moves are special damaging, I go for the same strategy as before and set up with Amnesia. The biggest threat on his team is Salamence, so we want to protect ourselves against the heavy hitting flying and dragon type moves. The 2 Flygons can be slightly worrying as they can paralyze us with Dragon Breath and use Sand Attack, which lowers our accuracy, in turn lowering our win condition against Salamence. Anyway, as you can see, Bacon just can't really do anything to us offensively. So we take it out with the Ice Beams, no worries. Altaria goes down just as fast and can barely damage us. Flygon sets up a Sandstorm, which is slightly annoying as it causes chip damage like Hail does, but that's better than a Sand Attack or a Dig. We take it out easy peasy. Man, Ice Beam is such a great move against dragon types. Especially when they're dragon and ground or dragon and flying, it just obliterates them. The second Flygon uses Flamethrower, not too bad, and then it uses Sand Attack. And, well, of course we miss Ice Beam. As I'm feeling a little nervous about Salamence, I decide to go for the heal, and next turn it uses another Sand Attack. Fuck. I miss my next Ice Beam, and now I'm really feeling nervous. Taking the heal was a mistake. I keep missing and it keeps Dragon Breathing, and I eventually get paralysed. This is going from bad to worse, and I'm also running low on PP for Ice Beam at this stage. I decide to use Return and save Ice Beam for Salamence. I miss again and get another Sand Attack. This is really looking grim, and I don't want to have to go through the ordeal of Sydney and Glacier again. But I finally manage to land a hit and take Flygon down. Salamence comes in and cuts my attack with Intimidate. I'm paralysed, my accuracy has been lowered by a few stages at this point, and I don't have much health. Things aren't looking great, but I pray to the RNG gods and actually hit Bastard with Ice Beam. What a relief. Drake taken out in one attempt. However, up next we have the champion Steven, and I get an ominous feeling my luck has run out here. Now, Steven isn't necessarily known for being the strongest champion in Pokemon games. However, I thought he would stack up nicely against Slakoth. His team is bulky and mostly physically defensive, and being a combination of steel and rock, they resist my strongest stab move return. So what's the strategy here? Well, luckily enough, Slakoth can learn Fire Blast, which only has 80% accuracy, but it's a risk we have to take to one-hit KO his Pokemon. Also, my special attack isn't great, so that's why I decided to use this over Flamethrower. Secondly is Brick Break, the only fighting type move we have access to with a base power over 70, and it's still only 75 base power. Now that I don't have bulk up to boost my attack and defense, I'm really not sure how this will go. Skarmory goes down to a single Fire Blast, which is great, and we want that to happen, as if we get hit by a Toxic, the match is over. Almaldo is the first issue. Although I can take it out with 2 Brick Breaks, it does a lot of damage with Ancient Power in between my attack turns, and I feel as if I'm forced to heal up, otherwise I won't even make it to his 4th Pokemon. So there is a lot of healing waiting for the right moment to strike. Finally it goes for a Slash, and then I take the opportunity to use Brick Break and it uses Water Pulse. Things aren't looking too bad right now and I have high hopes. Next up is Claydol. Again, there is a lot of back and forth in this fight. Claydol resists Brick Break, so I decide to use Return, but because of it setting up a Reflect, I can't one-hit KO, and now that I've received a fair bit of damage, I decide I need to heal and wait for the right time to strike once more. Finally the moment appears and I take it down with Return. Then out comes Aggron, and it goes for Earthquake. I decide to heal and then take it out with 1 Brick Break. Now for the worst part of this fight, Credilli. And unfortunately, the footage freezes here for a moment, but when it resumes, you can see I go for a Brick Break and it just lives the attack. I'm so low on health from Giga Drain, I'm forced to heal. And Steven uses a full restore on Credilli. Fuck. I go for a Return as to not trigger another full restore, and then Credilli uses Sludge Bomb, poisons me, and I just die. And it would take me a long time to even get to Steven again, between all the bullshit with Sydney's hacks moves, and Glacier getting multiple freezes and critical hits in a row. I did refine my strategy with Drake, going for 3 Amnesias instead of 2, and making sure I take out the second Flygon as soon as possible. But whenever I got to Steven again, I would just lose, and a lot of the time, Almaldo just walled me. If Almaldo received the all-around stat boost from an Ancient Power, it's just over. I tried a different strategy by using the move Toxic and trying to outlast the Almaldo and Claydol, but this also didn't work, because Steven would get lucky with Ancient Power boosts, critical hits, and the use of full restores. I ended up losing to Steven probably 6 more times, and I was so close to giving up and saving before him. And honestly, it was mainly because of Sydney. I could consistently beat Phoebe, and beat Glacier about 70% of the time, and Drake about 90% of the time. But man, the resets on this run was insane. I ended up speeding up the game because I have a life outside of this, and it was becoming incredibly frustrating. So the new strategy against Steven was to be at a high enough level that I can one-shot Credilli with a Brick Break, and fingers crossed Almaldo doesn't get any Ancient Power boosts. And then fingers crossed again that if I get to Metagross, which I've not done at this point, I can survive 2 more hits and don't miss a Fire Blast. Yeah, it was pretty much all down to getting the best luck. But still probably more consistent than Sydney. Maybe. So after hours of grinding, I finally get to Steven again, and I'm at my wit's end. But let's go anyway. I Fire Blast Skarmory no problem. Now Almaldo comes out, and instead of using Brick Break for whatever reason, I go for Fire Blast, and I hit. And this time I decide not to heal up against it because I don't want to risk him getting all the Ancient Power buffs. And again, for whatever reason, I do want to risk using Fire Blast and missing, but I hit. Okay. I think at this point I was so frustrated I was just clicking buttons. So at this point I have about 1/3 of my health left, but I'm banking on the fact that Claydol will use 1 Reflect while I'm loafing, and I'll be able to survive an Earthquake, which obviously I do, and I get the heal. There's a bit more Earthquake and Slakoth back and forth until I find the right moment to strike, and eventually use 2 returns to take out the Claydol, and I have 224 HP remaining. Now Aggron is no problem. I decide to heal once again, and then I take it out with a single brick break. Out comes Credilli. I take 1 Giga Drain down to half health, and luckily I outspeed, and at level 99, 1 brick break is enough to one-hit KO Credilli. Now, for the first time I face Metagross, and this is the decider of the run. Is it possible to beat Pokemon Ruby with only a Slakoth? As I'm loafing around, Metagross goes for Meteor Mash and misses. I'm holding my breath at this point. He outspeeds and goes for another Meteor Mash and hits, bringing my health down to 68 HP. And then I go for Fire Blast for the 4th time in the span of this battle, and I actually hit, taking down the Metagross and defeating the champion of the Elite Four, and only barely. Because if Metagross landed the first Meteor Mash, I surely would have lost. And again, if I missed that Fire Blast, I would have lost. So this battle was incredibly lucky. Would I ever attempt a solo run with Slakoth again? Probably not, it's way too frustrating. So, thanks for watching guys. Feel free to comment below what I could have done better in this challenge run, and if you want to see me make another one and which Pokemon I should use. Au revoir.